a pretty good year for movies this year, and we are going to talk about some of them right now. Also, some of the things coming to the channel, which are exciting, and the website, things like that. Moving from TikTok as well, because we were on there for a bit. And I just don't think I put the focus in over there. We didn't really grow as much as we have in other places, but still, it was a pretty fun place to meet a lot of people I would love to call friends now. So it's definitely been a pretty interesting journey over there. But here on YouTube is where we're really focused right now. And just talking about the 2025 movie release schedule as well, which is really great. And I was just putting like a little reflection right there. Wasn't great, right? But we are definitely excited to watch The Wolfman, which is the big release for watching for the. I think that's like the first like movie of 2025 I've watched in theaters. I believe I watched Grafted a couple of days ago, which was really good. I'm ready to talk about that pretty soon next week. Really good body in there. It looked like things went. Okay, we're good. I think the image is good now. But yeah, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Jeffrey. Yeah, The Wolfman is going to be like the first horror movie we're going to talk about next week once we see it. And I'm excited to see how that one's going to be because I like The Invisible Man a lot. And then I liked Lee Winnell's other film, Upgrade, which I thought was not as talked about as much as it should have been. I thought that movie was really good. So I'm really excited to see what Lee is going to do with The Wolfman, which just looks great. I know they released like the transformation and everything. I haven't watched that. I'm trying to steer away from like more about that movie because that first trailer did it for me. The posters, the teasers, and things like that as well. So I'm trying to get away from that, especially after this week I saw the companion trailer and it sort of gave away a little bit more than I wanted it to. And I was just like, I'm gonna not watch more about the Wolfman. I'm gonna wait till I watch it because I just want to experience it. Also, I'm curious to see what Lee Winnell will do with the Wolfman. Some of the reviews that have come out already for the movie are sounding really positive. They're saying it's really great spin he's put into the lore of wolves and all of that werewolves. So I'm excited to see what he has done there. And then, like, right after that is going to be Companion. That's the new film with Sophie Thatcher as well as Jack Quaid from the people that brought us Barbarian, the producers. I believe it's the director's first feature, though. So, very excited to see what that's going to be like. But the cast is really great. Like, you have Lucas Gage in it, also Harvey Guillen, who is in What We Do in the Shadows. And the film does have a very comedic tone to it, almost like a dark comedy. And I'm excited to see what everything's gonna like feel like for that movie because a lot of it has me excited. The look of it, these actors, I enjoy them in a lot of things they are. Of course, Sophie Thatcher just came off of Heretic. I don't know, I was about to say Hereditary, wrong movie, but Heretic. And she's also in Yellow Jackets, which Yellow Jackets is going to have a season 3 coming out next month as well, which is more like a survival horror thriller type of show. Yellow Jackets. It's already on the third season. I think the first season's on Netflix. Really solid show, honestly. But I'm excited to see what Sophie Thatcher is going to bring to the table there. And Jack Quaid, of course, is somebody from The Boys. And I love that we're seeing him more in the big screens. I think he was great in Scream. And I'm excited to see how he's going to be in this movie Companion, which is going to be coming out. And then, of course, we start to get into February, and it's Valentine's, so we get a movie like Hard Eyes, which also got a trailer this week. Mason Gooding, Olivia Holt, Michael Kennedy, and Christopher Landon doing the script there. Of course, they did movies like Freaky and as well as Happy Death Day, so you can expect a little bit of a comedy horror when it comes to Hard Eyes. That's what I was thinking, and the trailer definitely showcased that. This is a comedy horror at its finest, but it's still keeping up with the slasher thrill of it. It definitely has a very interesting design. If you've watched the trailer for Hard Eyes, the killer has like a mask and he has like hearts in his eyes and they like turn on when they're in the dark, which I thought was a pretty cool scene they showed in the trailer. So that's a movie I'm looking forward to as well. Like these next like 4 weeks for like releases is going to be great, honestly. There's so many good like shows and movies coming out, because you also have The Gorge, which is a new Scott Derrickson film with Anya Taylor-Joy as well as Miles Teller. Yeah, I'm ready for Wolfman as well. That one looks so good. And I just watched the first trailer. I'm trying to avoid anything else. I know they released more footage, but I'm just like ready to see what that's gonna be like. But The Gorge is also a movie from Scott Derrickson. It's going to be coming out on Apple TV, I believe. I don't know if it has a theatrical release, but it's like these two, I believe, like guards from like different parts of, like one's on one side and one's on the other, and they're like guarding the middle of this like canyon, and we don't know what's inside the canyon. There's something down there, but nobody knows what it is, and they're just communicating with one another through their telescopes and things like that. And we find out that there is something bad going down there, and they have to go in there, and it looks like it's gonna get crazy. I'm curious to see what it is. Scott Derrickson, I believe he's mainly done horror, so this should be interesting to see. Of course, Doctor Strange, but still, it's always along those lines. So I'm expecting something crazy to be down there in that canyon. And of course, then we have Severance coming out for its next season, which I'm excited to talk about that. I do have a Severance video on season one coming out next Monday, so stay tuned for that. Well, this Monday, not next Monday. So in a couple of days, stay tuned for that. But we do also have, let's see, we talked about The Wolfman, which is coming out soon. Then we also do have Companion, which is the Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid movie. So that's for January. When it comes to streaming, there is a body horror film coming out called Grafted, which I got the chance to watch not too long ago. And that is a movie that has been getting some pretty good reviews at the festivals it's played at. And it's more about a young girl who develops this like new procedure. And I don't want to give too many things away for it, but it gets crazy. And if you're a fan of The Substance, if you're a fan of Reanimator, it feels like a combination of a lot of those things. Not exactly the same thing, but there's so many things in it that really do have that similar vibe to it. So I'm excited to talk more about that movie. I'll have a review out next week for Grafted, and we'll talk more about it as well. But it's pretty good year, honestly. Pretty solid January as well to start off the year. Den of Thieves 2. I was planning to check that out. I haven't checked that out, but taking that into consideration, yeah, I do need some horror for sure, and I'm hoping Wolfman's gonna do that, and also Companion and Grafted also comes out, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the horror releases. But 2025, I think, is going to be packed with some good horror movies for sure. I'm excited to see what they are going to like surprise us with, because we do know about most of the horror movies coming out, like Final Destination, things like that, the new Saw movie, and there's always some surprises hidden in the festivals also. I'm curious what South by Southwest. South by Southwest usually has some horror titles they do have there. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm definitely excited to see more about these like upcoming year, what's it going to bring, because 2024 surprised me with how many good horror movies it had. And I still haven't even checked out a lot that just went to streaming, which I do want to check that out. I kind of like try to keep up with schedule, and then once you like break not watching a movie for a bit and then you do other things and all that, it's kind of hard to get back into it. Then I still have to watch the first one. I do have to watch the first Den of Thieves, but oh, how long was Den 2 though? Because I'm curious about that. But I've heard so many people excited about the Den of Thieves sequel, because they said Den of Thieves one was so good. So I'm curious about that. And I know it came out today, so I was gonna try and catch the first one, and then maybe watch the second one on Tuesdays, usually discount Tuesdays or matinee or something. So I'm gonna try and see about that. Yeah, so I think that was like one of the big releases. So next week we do have the Wolfman, and I think then yeah, Wolfman and then Companion. Those were like the last two releases. Yeah, I'm gonna try and watch the first one this weekend, and then try to see how I feel about catching in the second one now. But I'm gonna try and see it on a Tuesday usually. Get a cheaper ticket too. But yeah, so yeah, Wolfman. That's the movie I'm really excited for. I'm curious about that transformation, how it's gonna look as well. I know they're gonna do something crazy with it, and it looks like Lee Wannell's just doing like the classic monsters now since he did Invisible Man, and the Wolfman is an interesting one because I don't think we've had a really big werewolf release in a bit. Well, we did have Werewolves last month that came out, which was fun. That was more like an action horror though with Frank Grillo, where the werewolves were like coming out at this specific day, and then everybody had to get ready. And if you were bit by a werewolf sometime, or you had werewolf blood in you, you would become a werewolf. That was a whole other thing with that movie. But that was more like action thriller. I'm curious to see one that goes more into the horror and the body horror of it, because it looks like this movie's gonna do that. Werewolf, the Wolfman from Lee Wano. So we'll see what that one's gonna be. But I remember watching the Benicio del Toro one that came out years ago, and I thought that was one of the coolest werewolf transformations. I don't really remember if the movie was good or not. The one that came out that had Anthony Hopkins and all that. So we're just gonna see what that one's gonna be. Yeah, I think that the PG-13 definitely does make some movies lose a little bit what they were trying to do as well. I do think that too when they push them to be PG-13. When I'm just like, I think that they were intending it to be R-rated to go far as they can, and then it kind of loses itself when it goes to the PG-13. Sometimes they can make it work, but sometimes they're cutting too many things out, or they're not trying to be as it just kind of waters the movie down sometimes. Sometimes it works, but sometimes, but most of the times it doesn't work, I think. So, but I think that's just the studios. They just want more people to go watch it. So they just tell them to like cut things out and make it more like accessible. But I do think some movies definitely got to be rated R to really get everything out. And I'm hoping to see some more horror movies really push and be like that as well. I know. I'm surprised too that we haven't gotten a Final Destination Bloodlines trailer. I think I did one last month when I was going through all of the list of the movies, like horror movies that are coming out in 2025, and I saw Final Destination was there, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna get a trailer for the Wolfman. Don't worry, y'all. We're gonna get a trailer for the Wolfman because this is about to come out. But the trailer hasn't released unless they're gonna release it this coming week, so it comes out in time for the Wolfman. Because we were also supposed to get a trailer for the Monkey, which is that Osgood Perkins movie that comes out next month, and that was supposed to come out this Wednesday, but it didn't release. And now Neon put coming soon, so I don't know what's going on either with these trailers. Because the Wolfman is like the big horror movie right now, so you would expect some horror trailers in with it. But right now, all I think it's gonna have is just the Monkey trailer. I don't know what else. So all I can think is we should get a Final Destination Bloodlines trailer in time for maybe Companion at this point now, which Companion comes out on the 31st. So in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I gotta see a Final Destination Bloodlines, because I think that's enough time to start building hype and letting people know who didn't know about that Final Destination movie that it's coming. Because a lot of people don't really know about that Final Destination movie yet because they haven't released much about it. Same thing. There's a lot of big like reboots type this year, because we do also have the I Know What You Did Last Summer movie coming out later on, and then of course like Final Destination and Saw and all of that. So yeah, very excited to see about that. Captain America: Brave New World. I'm excited about that. I know that like the last trailer kind of got to me honestly, and I was excited for that. And I think it's gonna be like from what I've been seeing and people talking about it, it definitely is trying to be separate from what they were doing before at Marvel, where they were trying to connect so many things, and you had to watch this show and you had to watch that and all of this. And I think that they definitely needed to take a step back and just give us a good story. If they can do Winter Soldier like with this movie, I'm there for it. But I know that they are still trying to build out a larger world as well with Captain America: Brave New World, because you do have like the plot lines from Falcon and the Winter Soldier still being a part of that story here. And then you also have Harrison Ford being the Red Hulk, and I feel like that's going to introduce more going into Thunderbolts as well with Thaddeus. So I think that we are definitely getting more into Marvel, getting back into their groove where they had lost it for a bit, I think, after Endgame. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Brave New World. Like, the more I see about this movie, last trailer really got to me. Giancarlo Esposito as a villain, I am definitely there to see what they're going to do with this one. But I'm excited for Brave New World for sure, and very curious to see how the MCU continues after this as well, especially because they're going to be announcing more about Doomsday and all of that this coming, well, Doomsday, Doctor Doom, I meant to say, probably this Comic Con. That's probably where they're going to make more announcements, and at D23. So the MCU is definitely in an interesting spot right now, and now they have the DC universe to compete with. Because I thought the new Superman trailer looked really great, so I know Marvel's really trying to get ahead of themselves and of DC at this point, and we'll see what happens. I think the competition will give us some good stuff from both of them, and hopefully we get the superheroes, the comic book movies, and all of that back to where they used to be. Because I think they've kind of like not flopped completely, but I think they got a little bit too like like confident. Maybe that's the word I want to say. They were just like, everybody's gonna go watch this movie. It doesn't matter. Everybody's gonna watch this show. It doesn't matter. But now I think that they realize, no, no, we have to think about these stories a little bit better, and we have to do good. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, because they also have the Fantastic Four right after that, and I think that this movie is going to have some connection or talk to the Fantastic Four. They don't have to, but I feel like there might be something in there, and that looks really good. And that's going up against James Gunn's Superman, so it's interesting to see a director that was like with Marvel for a long time now releasing a movie that goes directly competing with them. And that same month as well, you have the new Jurassic World movie, which has Mahershala Ali and Scarlett Johansson, and that looks really good to me and sounds really good to me the more I hear about this movie. And you also have 28 Years Later, which we are making a video about 28 Years Later tomorrow, because the Empire magazine released a lot of new details. One of the biggest ones, we've already kind of discussed them, is that Cillian Murphy is not in the 28 Years Later movie this year, but they do want to include him in the trilogy at some point, which was a big thing because a lot of people were saying that Cillian Murphy was going to be in 28 Years Later, and they said that he was that zombie at some point, if you remember, and then the zombie man, the actual man who's playing that zombie, was like, that's just me. And we just heard from the producer in that Empire magazine article that Cillian Murphy is not in this movie. And we'll talk more about that in the video tomorrow. We'll read the whole article and everything they said about it, but I thought that was interesting as well. So July and June, definitely heating up. One of the biggest summers for sure. And I know that the studios are banking that all of those movies are going to do great. So I'm curious how this summer is going to go when you have Fantastic Four, you have Jurassic, you have Superman, and you have 20 Years Later. Big franchises. So we'll see what happens. And, it's just going to be a good year, I think, for movies and just going to the movies for sure. Like I said, this is a already pretty stacked month as well when we have all of these movies that are coming out. And Wolfman is going to be the one we're going to watch next week. So I'm excited to see what that one's going to be like. It definitely is going to see where people are thinking with the movies, right? Are people going to show up? Or are people still going to be like, I don't know. That's interesting because 2024, last year, I think a lot of people were worried about the box office and stuff, but ultimately people showed up to things they wanted to see, and that's always how it is. I never think that the box office is doom and gloom. It's just I think people are a little bit more conscious about where they want to spend their money. And if Hollywood gives them something good, they'll go watch it. But if Hollywood doesn't, then they'll stay home. That's just how it's always been. And we'll see what happens because I think that we definitely have a better year this year. It's definitely going to be interesting, but we'll see. Anyways, just wanted to talk here a little bit about that, get on live for a bit. We are planning to do more lives. This one was very impromptu, so the lighting's horrible. And the background is just curtain blinds, but I will be doing better. I will be working more on a backdrop that looks a lot better than this, so stay tuned. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Have a great weekend, and I'll see y'all